Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again with a follow-up endgame video on the alternate quality stacking car speed, attack speed, kinetic bolt Deadeye that basically has tri-elemental, mostly two big elements, but still tri-elemental all the same. And it's probably the squishiest character I've had since Defense Reworks, as far as I could sort of remember. I mean, we're spell suppress capped, which is still pretty good to have, even while we have such low life pool total, and otherwise like 60-70% evasion, which is also handy to have, because without that, it definitely does feel like you get hit a lot more throughout various content. I didn't really expect the squishiness to feel as okay as it has, but it hasn't been too much of an issue. Obviously, it's not as comfortable in the current game to be playing on a lower life pool, but it still does hold up as a playstyle to be zoom and boom and not have really anything invested too heavily in defenses. Though it does feel a lot better if you could shatter things, so more of a extremely quick, snappy bow playstyle, more like it. But this build doesn't shatter, and it does suck a bit in that regard, but it doesn't really matter too much in the end. So yeah, I got to like level 93 or some shit, lots of DPS, anywhere from like 15 to 30 million, it's hard to tell sometimes. Did lots of mapping, did this breach memory thing, which gets pretty damn hard, but still somewhat manageable. And then in the end took on most Uber bosses. It's certainly a bit of a challenging playstyle for some Uber bosses, but for some it's not at all an issue because you shouldn't really be getting hit by most of their shit anyway. So the end game is actually pretty decent for the build compared to what I sort of expected, having low defenses, but it's not the worst in the end. Having to deal with that shit. And then the visual clarity is probably the biggest issue, I suppose, against some content. So most of these four-ways and invites and stuff were pretty comfortable. You can just sit back and blast everything at once, and not having to specifically pinpoint an attack is really convenient because you can basically just hit a huge cone of area right in front of you. Otherwise, yeah, for like a Maven, for example, and Uber Elder and a few other boss fights, your visual clarity does kind of get in the way of being able to perform certain actions, but I don't know, it's still kind of fun to watch and a little bit mesmerizing at times. The MTX for Flame Wall, purely cosmetic and makes things so much worse, but so much more glorious. Using it anyway, who gives a shit? So I did end up doing like 5 Uber Shapers or some shit, maybe like 5 Uber Mavens, and Eater of Worlds once, which was okay. Couple of Uber Elders, died to one of them. Well, I mean, bricked one of them, and also bricked a Cirrus, because, you know, fuck that fight. And I didn't even have it in me to actually finish it. It was just like, after 2 portals, he just kept running with his storms non-stop, and I actually couldn't even, I just had to wait for him to go all the way up and all the way back, and I just left. I just straight up left, didn't actually finish my portals on my attempt. Trash fight, the Uber Cirrus version. In any case, it is pretty fun, like kind of dodging and trying to play style around certain bosses, and like I said, spell suppress cap does help a lot on these things, because it does let me take some of those bullet hell style hits at least one time, even with 3k life, and that is the threshold that you really want to be over for an Uber boss, being able to take at least one hit every now and again, because if you can't take any hits, that's when it becomes a really big issue. But yeah, for something like this, Uber Eater, you're not supposed to take any hits basically, so you can just run around and do your thing. It's not the best fight for us. Most fights aren't the best, but they're manageable with a pretty quick playstyle and good DPS, and being on softcore, of course, 6 portals, best defense ever. The only other thing about the build I didn't mention since last time was I did spec into the knockback crit node for projectile mastery. So whenever we were critting, basically knocking things back, it actually came in quite handy for certain maps, certain bosses, and yeah, worth the 1 point. Either way, this is basically just one example of this style of build. I really do think that there's going to be some sort of other much larger kinetic bolt cast speed stack out there. Maybe some self-ignite, some self-chill, maybe some strength stack, synthesis base. I could imagine there being bigger versions of this build, perhaps around the same level of DPS, perhaps more DPS, but then at the same time also having a better level of survivability and not quite as high on the cast speed, attack speed stack, more on hitting hard sort of thing. So maybe more visual clarity as well. I do think it's a pretty interesting skill. I do think the interaction for cast on crit with attack, 50 more attack and chance to bleed with 50 more bleed can be applied to plenty of other situations as well for quality stack. So that's mostly just the Diala chest doing heavy lifting there, and I think it's a pretty interesting support setup that should see some use in the future for some other shit too. With that said, I think just gonna show you this last little bit of horrible visual clarity for Uber Maven. Did a few of these runs in the end. Didn't really get anything out of it, but still kind of fun to challenge myself. And then I'll leave you with an Uber Elder. Uber Elder is very hard for a squishy character because that's the kind of fight where it gets super chaotic that you can't reliably like dodge everything unless you're a god at this game, and I really don't think I am for that level of purpose. So you just get hit by stuff, and it's a tough fight if you're pretty squish. Either way, hope you guys enjoyed the video and the character. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. That is so hard to get away from when Elder is doing his fucking constant spears. I didn't phase Shaper in time. Fuck. If I phased him in time, I could have avoided another one of these attacks. Holy shit, dude. Needing to dodge that while that. That's a lot of that. As I said earlier, the visual clarity on this build compared to Shockwave Totem is so painfully bad. That bow just spawned there, dude. How are you gonna do me like that? I couldn't dodge both attacks that time.
I agree with Methel.
Nice shirt yet.
You might not be wrong, it actually might be the most glass cannon build I've ever made. Thanks, Krista. For the billions of years of resub with the billions of tears of years and the nice shirt compliment. I couldn't see anything. Alright, hopefully I can blast my way through. I can't. So much fucking work. Res caps? Yeah, of course we are. Yay. Food. Oh, that's trash. And this needs to be something big. It's been so long since I've had something big. It's so bad. There's nothing to even look up. Like, what even is this mod? Chance to blind enemies which hit you, Grace. Who fucking invented that scuffed ass mod?